Good evening and welcome. The May 15th, 2026 Arlington County Board of Zoning Appeals hearing is now in session. My name is Richard Kaplan. I am chair of the board. April, yes, thank you. Moving ahead, tax day. The board is made up of 5 citizens appointed by the circuit court. Tonight, in addition to myself, we have members Inta Malice, Judy Freshman, Carol McCoskry, and Alex Kumana. Also present is the professional staff of Arlington County, including Lindsay Klein, BZA coordinator, Megan Ryan, BZA associate planner, Brett Goldberg, BZA associate planner, and joining us online is Stephen Rissy, zoning prim supervisor. To avoid disruptions, we ask that you please place your mobile devices in silent mode. Before we begin tonight's hearing, I will discuss this board's powers and the procedures for tonight's hearing. This board's powers are prescribed in the Code of Virginia and are set out in further detail in the county's zoning ordinance adopted by the county board. The Board of Zoning Appeals does not have the power to rezone property or to amend the regulations set forth in the ordinance. That authority rests solely with the county board. This board does have the authority to do 3 things. First, the BZA can approve use permits that allow modifications of placement requirements for structures on 1- and 2-family lots where there is no option in the zoning ordinance to allow such modifications. In order to approve a use permit, the Arlington zoning ordinance requires that this board find that the proposal will not adversely affect the health or safety of persons residing in the neighborhood, will not be detrimental to the public welfare or injurious, to property or improvements in the neighborhood, and will not be in conflict with the purposes of the master plans and land use and zoning related policies of the county. In making these findings, the BZA shall consider whether the modification will promote compatibility of the development with the surrounding neighborhood because of the structure's overall size, footprint, and placement are similar to those of the structures on the property surrounding the lot in question, and whether the modification will help preserve natural landform, historical features, and/or significant trees and foliage. When approving use permits, the Board of Zoning Appeals may impose conditions that it deems necessary and in the public interest, including but not limited to the duration of that use permit. Second, the BZA can grant variances from the specific requirements of the zoning ordinance. When granting variances, the burden of proof is on the applicant to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property and that the need for a variance would not be shared generally by other properties and such variance is not contrary to the purposes of the ordinance, or that the strict application of the ordinance would unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, or that granting the variance would alleviate a hardship due to a physical condition relating to the property or improvements thereon at the time of the effective date of the ordinance, or alleviate a hardship by granting a reasonable modification to a property or improvement thereon requested by or on behalf of a person with a disability. In all variance cases, the property for which the variance is being requested must have been acquired in good faith and any hardship was not created by the applicant. That the variance granted will not be of substantial detriment to the adjacent property and nearby properties in the proximity of the geographic area, and that the condition or situation of the property concerned is not so general or reoccurring a nature as to make reasonably practicable the adoption of an amendment to the ordinance. That granting the variance will not result in a use that is not otherwise permitted on the property or change the zoning classification of the property, and that the relief or remedy obtained through the variance is not available through a special exception process as provided for under the zoning or subdivision ordinance. Third, the BZA shall hear and decide appeals of the zoning administrator or from any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by any other administrative officer in the administration or enforcement of Title 15.2, Article 7 of the Code of Virginia. Now on to tonight's hybrid hearing. For those who are participating in person, on the front table, you will find a QR code. Is there a QR code? Okay. Oh, I don't see. Okay, thank you. Linking to a copy of the application packages, including the staff report for each case before us this evening. For those participating virtually, a copy of each application package can be found on the Arlington County BZA website. There is also a link in the chat for the application packages. If you have not yet seen that report for your case, you should review that before your case is called. If you are attending virtually and lose connectivity, please reconnect with us by phone. If you are attending via Teams, please keep yourself muted and cameras off until called upon. Turn off the sound on any other devices around you to minimize interference. When called upon to speak, please turn on your camera and unmute yourself by clicking on the microphone icon that is located in the meeting command bar. County staff does not have the ability to unmute you. The meeting chat is active for technical support assistance only. The meeting chat should not be used for discussion, public comments, questions about agenda items, or requests for more information. All public comments must be shared verbally or have been previously provided in writing for the record during the assigned public testimony period. This evening, staff will call each case and will provide a brief staff recommendation and report. Next, board members will ask any questions of staff that they may have. Applicant or their representative will be given an opportunity to make comments to support the application or appeal. Next, all speakers for and against the item will be called. Speakers must fill out a speaker slip, which is either online or available on the table in the front of the room. After we hear from speakers for and against the proposal, this board may permit the applicant a brief opportunity to clarify any points. The board may ask questions of any speakers, but does not permit any cross-examination or direct questioning by others. For tonight's hearing, this board has deemed the following time limits for speakers to be sufficient: 20 minutes for applicants of appeals, 5 minutes for applicants of use permits and variances, 3 minutes for representatives of organizations, and 2 minutes for individuals. After the board has gathered all information we need and have discussed the case, we will decide the matter by voting on a motion duly made and seconded. A majority is needed to approve any motion. Please be respectful of the time allotted. This is a public forum, and tonight's hearing will be recorded and posted on the county's website. All information associated with tonight's hearing, whether spoken or written, is subject to the Freedom of Information Act requirements. Any appeal from the decision of this board must be made to the circuit court in accordance with state law. After your case of interest is heard, you are welcome to stay for the balance of the session or leave at your convenience. Tonight we have a rather lengthy agenda, and those who attend these hearings know that I tend to let people go way over their time. I'm going to try and keep people to their allotted time in hopes to get through the entire agenda tonight. And for those at the end of the agenda, keep in mind that that'll push it later into the night. So we have 16 items on the agenda tonight. Advertised was a carryover meeting or hearing for tomorrow night. So anything we don't get to tonight can be heard tomorrow night at 7 o'clock, but we're hopeful that we're going to get through everything tonight to avoid that. At 10 o'clock, I will poll my colleagues to see if we should plow through or adjourn for tomorrow night. But again, my hope is that I'm going to try and keep everyone to the assigned time and that we're going to get through this tonight. Anything further from my colleagues? Ms. Klein, can you please call our first agenda item?
Yes, case number V-12086-25-VA-1, carry over and revised, a variance request by Paul Wujay and Carrie Lynn Connolly, the owners to permit a rear yard setback of 19.2 feet to the main building wall, 17.5 feet to the eaves, instead of 25 feet to the main building wall and 21 feet to the eaves as required regarding a two-story rear addition to an existing townhouse dwelling in the R8-18 zoning district on the premises known as 1046 North Monroe Street, Ballston, Virginia Square. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance request. An alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised. And please note that there is supplemental material for this case that has been provided to the BZA after the initial application packet was assembled and printed, and that includes one comment form from a neighbor at 1052 North Monroe Street.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on the application? Is the applicant with us?
Yes, we're here.
Can we try that again?
Yes, sorry, is this a better connection?
Yes, I don't know who that was, but it is good now. Would you like to speak to your application?
Can I hear us?
Can you all hear us?
Yes. Can you hear us? We can hear you, but
Hi,
I don't know.
Can you guys hear us?
Can you hear us?
It looks like they're both muted, so maybe if one of them unmute.
Hi, we're
Can you
unmuted. Can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Would you like to speak to your application?
Yes, we would love to. Thank you.
Sure, sound on?
Yes, my sound's on. They can hear.
Turn your sound off so there's no echo.
Hang on, sorry. We have two devices going here. Okay, is that better?
No, I just leave.
Okay, sorry.
Your sound is on.
Yes. Technical difficulties.
See, they can't hear us when your sound. I don't think your sound's on.
Hello, can you hear us now?
Yeah. Yes, we can hear you. You can go.
Okay, they can hear us.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, sorry about that. Technical issues. Hi, good evening. Thank you so much for having us back. We're so sorry we weren't able to join you in person. Tonight, we have both unfortunately tested positive for COVID today, which was an unpleasant surprise. But jumping right into it, we want to start by acknowledging that our request has evolved significantly since our last appearance in January. Following the deferral, we very carefully considered your feedback and reevaluated our proposed design. As a result, we made several key changes. We reduced the overall size of the addition. We brought the project to under 50% GFA, and we increased the rear setback from 17.5 feet to 19.3 feet. And we believe this updated request strikes a much better balance between the constraints of our property and the intent of the zoning ordinance. Moving on to the next slide. As we discussed during our last appearance, the key issue with our property is the 15-foot wide public alley directly behind our lot. It is owned by the county, but not maintained. It was even incorrectly listed as a paved alley on a recent inventory of alleys, which we felt further demonstrated the county's lack of awareness of the alley or any plans for future development or improvement. Importantly, from our perspective, we can't build on it, we can't move it, and we can't incorporate the alley into our lot, which creates a non-standard condition. In reality, there's already significant space between the homes on Monroe and Nelson due to the alley, but the zoning code doesn't account for that. It basically treats our lot like a typical rear-to-rear condition, which it is not. Moving on to the next slide, because the alley isn't counted, the code effectively double counts the required separation. So we're required to provide a full 25-foot setback plus the 15-foot public alley, which results in roughly 65 feet between structures, which is far more than is typical in our zoning district. This is a hardship, and it's important because it's not self-created, and it's the result of this government-owned alley combined with the zoning ordinance that doesn't account for it. Practically speaking, a fully compliant addition would be very shallow, not very functional, and it really wouldn't justify the cost or disruption of construction. The alley itself is essentially dead space from our perspective. And we feel that, properties with alleys are effectively being held to a stricter standard than those without, despite already having greater separation, which we believe meets the definition of a hardship. Moving on to the next slide. You may be asking, why don't we just build up? We could build a 3 to 4 story addition tomorrow without a variance. Our property is listed on the National Register of Historic Places, and although it is an honorary designation, preserving the character of the neighborhood is extremely important to us and to our neighbors. The Secretary of the Interior Standards for the Treatment of Historic Properties specifically states that it does not recommend constructing a rooftop addition on a low-rise 1 to 3 story historic building that is highly visible, overwhelms the building, or negatively impacts the historic district. If we were to design a rooftop addition, we would do so thoughtfully, but we fear that even the most thoughtfully designed third story or rooftop addition in this condition would be highly visible from the public right of way and would very negatively impact the historic character of the neighborhood, which we're very committed to maintaining, and we're very proud to live in a historic place in Arlington. We feel a rear addition better aligns with preservation best practices, and it would be largely invisible from the primary streetscape.
And we feel this is a strong reason as to why, to our knowledge, we have not received any complaints from any of our neighbors, and we feel that our design is a strong reason as to why that is.
Moving on to the next slide, in our last appearance, there was a lot of conversation about whether this would, this variance would create a broad precedent. In this case, we believe it clearly does not. Our property is very uniquely constrained by the pre-zoning construction in the rear alley. There are some comparable properties in our district. There are 665 townhomes here in RA 818. 5% or roughly 33 of those abut a rear alley, and 27 of those are located in our neighborhood historic Monroe Courts and abut the rear alley in question. So this variance would only apply to 6 additional townhomes in RA 818, which is roughly 0.005% of properties in the district. Moving on to our final slide, we really appreciate you taking the time to consider our request again. Since our last appearance, we've carefully listened and made some very meaningful changes to bring the request closer into alignment with the ordinance and your feedback. At the same time, we feel the underlying hardship created by the alley remains unchanged. This, this request is not about maximizing space. It's about enabling a modest and functional improvement to our home. So I think that is
Thank
all
you.
we have. Thank you for your consideration.
Got under 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for the applicant?
You turn it up.
Discussion? Or motion? Ms. McCuskey? Oh, sorry, I saw your light on.
I know.
I will say that I'm having trouble with this application because the standard for the variance deals with the hardship on the actual property. And in here, it seems like in this property, it seems like the applicant is relying on the hardship being that there is an alley behind the property. And so the alley is not part of the property, but it also, even if the alley wasn't there, that doesn't mean that property would be part of, that alley would be part of this property, making this property bigger, right? This property has boundaries that are set irregardless of what is directly adjacent in the back. So that's kind of where I'm coming from at this one.
But by making the I guess the zoning or an ordinance like setback requirements based on that alley being part of the home, I think it's not a big leap to connect that as being, like, I view it as a hardship, like both in use and in future development for their land. I mean, perhaps the home itself doesn't have a hardship, but I think the lot itself has this hardship that they can't ever really square up without a variance, right? I mean, they're counting it towards their requirements, but it's unusable and underdeveloped and
Which,
It's not.
yeah, I mean, because their property doesn't encompass the alley, they can build less than what the alley is. But I'm not sure that's a hardship under the ordinance of a variance. Ms. Freshman?
I agree with Mr. Camano. I think that this is a unique situation, given the numbers that they indicated, how many in this district would be affected, which is basically this block, and an infinitesimal amount. I'm persuaded that with the changes that they've made, that it's an acceptable proposal.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman. Ms. Malice?
Mr. Chairman, I really appreciate the well thought out application that the applicants put together and the thoughtfulness and the research they did. But I do disagree that this precedent would be limited only to their block and the condition of an alley being there. This is, in fact, I think they gave the number, hundreds of sites are affected. And again, I struggle to find what the hardship is, in terms of the standards that the state code provides us. Oh,
Ms. McCuskey?
I can go ahead and make a motion. And I'm in agreement with Ms. Malice and the chairman. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance V1208625 VA1. And I'm on that side because I just, unfortunately, because this is a very small lot, difficult to do much with, but unfortunately, I don't think it meets the hardship test. And this is the kind of thing where a general ordinance could fix the problem. So that's my rationale. Did you have a second?
Not yet.
A second.
A motion for denial as advertised made by Ms. McCoskey, seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion?
Yeah, I just want to echo Ms. McCroskey that, it's a policy decision that the county needs to make, whether they wish these small sites, these small lots to be larger and therefore more valuable, or whether they want them to stay small and therefore more affordable. And I think that there's a policy decision here that's, beyond our pay grade.
And I'll add, the county board has given us the authority for a use permit, but not in this circumstance, right? So that's a county board's judgment that I don't think that this board can overrule. Ms. McCuskey?
Yeah, I want to echo what Ms. Malice said about a very well done application. And I think you have some good points, and I'm feeling sort of bound by these legal standards that we are, that we have to apply. I do think that this is the kind of situation where, maybe an ordinance to allow, more space by alleys would be a good thing, but that's something the county board would have to do. Unfortunately, I don't think we have the ability to do it here.
Hearing no further discussion, I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
No.
Ms. McCuskey?
Aye.
Mr. Kumana?
No.
Chair votes aye. Motion for denial passes 3-2. Ms. Klein, can you please call our next, I believe, a withdrawal?
Yes. Case number V-12083-25-UP-1 carryover. A previously revised use permit request carried over from the December 18th, 2025 and February 18th, 2026 BZA hearings by Timothy Mock of Mock Architecture, PLLC, on behalf of Richard and Mary Micker, the owners, to seek a permit seeking to permit a rear setback of 20.8 feet to the garage wall and 19.9 feet to the garage eave instead of 25 feet to the garage wall and 21 feet to the garage eave as required, and to permit a left side setback of 3.3 feet to the garage wall and 2.8 feet to the garage eave instead of 10 feet to the garage wall, 6 feet to the garage eave as required, regarding a new 2-story detached garage in the R10 zoning district on the premises known as 3930 North Upland Street in Stafford, Albemarle, Glebe, and staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying these requests with conditions, but please note that staff, after the staff recommendation was published, the applicant submitted supplemental material requesting withdrawal of the subject request.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. No further action required from us, right? Can you call the next 2 variances together? Because
Yeah.
they are identical.
Yes. Case number V-12094-25-VA-3, a variance request by Justin Jarkowski of Elevation Homes LLC, the owner, to construct a 1-family dwelling on a lot with frontage on a public thoroughfare having a width of 24 feet instead of 30 feet as required by the Arlington County Zoning Ordinance Section 1.5 regarding the development of 1-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises currently known as 2717 First Street South in which is lot 16 of the Henry L. Holmes subdivision number 2 in Penrose. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance request, but 2 alternative resolutions have been provided should the BZA see fit to deny the variance request based on variance criteria, or should the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised. And then case number V-12095-26-VA-4, a variance request by Justin Jarkowski of Elevation Homes LLC, the owner, to construct a 1-family dwelling on a lot with frontage on a public thoroughfare having a width of 24 feet instead of 30 feet as required by Arlington County Zoning Ordinance Section 1.5 regarding the development of a 1-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2717 First Street South, lot 17 of the Henry L. Holmes subdivision north number 2 in Penrose. And once again, staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance request with 2 alternative resolutions provided should the BZA see fit to deny the variance request based on variance criteria, or should the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised. And please note that for both of these cases, there is supplemental material that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed in the form of a summary of engagement efforts with the neighborhood association, president, and neighboring property owners, an applicant's memorandum on the merits of the projects, and the project designer's letter on the merits of the project's designs.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on these items?
I do,
Ms.
but
Malice.
maybe I'd hear from the applicant first.
Okay. Is the applicant with us? He sure is.
Another supplemental material, got enough of those. What's one more?
Yeah.
Can you turn on the microphone and raise it up? I believe there is a control somewhere.
Okay. I feel sorry for, I'll be generous and put this back down. Okay. Let me know when,
I think we can go ahead.
okay, great. Good evening, Andrew Gregg with Bean, Kinney and Corman on behalf of the presentation.
Yeah, sorry, let me get that up.
Can we start the clock over too?
Yes.
I think it's the one on the left. Yeah, that's the one. Okay, let's get going. Good evening, Andrew Gregg with Bean, Kinney and Corman on behalf of Elevation Homes. This is a narrow variance request involving 2 historic R6 lots of record at 2717 First Street South. Staff's own report acknowledges that each lot would otherwise qualify for one family development under section 1611 if the frontage condition were met. The only thing preventing one detached home on each lot is section 1.5 because the adjacent right-of-way is 24 feet wide instead of 30. The question tonight is whether the statutory criteria for a variance are satisfied. We respectfully submit that they are. Next slide, please. At the outset, it is important to be clear about what this request does and what it does not do. It does not change the zoning district. It does not authorize a different use. It does not excuse setbacks, height, or lot coverage. It does not widen First Street South, and it does not determine house size. The proposed homes comply with all other applicable R6 placement, coverage, height, and parking requirements. What this variance restores is buildability. It restores the ability to place one detached single-family home on each 2 historic lots of record that otherwise qualify for one family development under section 1611. Next slide, please. These lots were platted in 1898 and have existed as 2 separate lots of record for 128 years. The property is zoned R6. Each lot is 4,900 square feet, 49 feet wide, and the existing 2005 house happens to straddle both lots. So from the outset, this is not a case requesting variance relief from lot area or lot width. Section 1611 addresses those dimensions. It is a case about whether 2 long-standing lots of record can be used as the zoning ordinance otherwise contemplates. Next slide, please. This slide shows the problem. The right-of-way at First Street South is 24 feet wide. Section 1.5 requires frontage on a public street, and Section 18.2 defines a street as 30 feet or more wide. That leaves a 6-foot gap. There's no second issue in this case. If the frontage condition were met, those lots would be buildable. Next slide, please. Staff's own report confirms 2 important points. First, at page 5, staff finds that each lot would qualify under 16.1.1 and could be developed with the proposed one-family dwellings if the frontage were on a street at least 30 feet wide. Second, at pages 7 and 8, staff recognizes that denying any new dwelling on the subject lot may be an unreasonable restriction on utilization. Staff's analysis confirms what we have said from the outset. Section 1.5 is the sole regulatory barrier these lots face. Next slide, please. Strict application of Section 1.5 produces an unreasonable restriction for 3 reasons. First, it bars independent redevelopment of either lot. These are 2 separated platted lots, but strict application locks them into one structure. If the current house were voluntarily removed, no new independent dwelling could be built on either lot. If there were a casualty loss, only the existing non-conforming footprint could be rebuilt. In either case, the separate lot rights still cannot be exercised. Second, the result is disproportionate. A 6-foot right-of-way deficiency becomes a complete prohibition on any new independent dwelling. Third, staff itself recognizes the severity of that result, acknowledging that denial may be an unreasonable restriction, yet still recommends it. Staff's, next slide, please. Staff's principal response is that the existing dwelling can continue and could even be expanded. Staff is correct on that narrow point, but that is not the statutory question. The statute does not ask whether some use exists today. It asks whether strict application unreasonably restricts utilization of the property. That a single structure can remain on the property does not answer whether each qualifying lot can be independently used. Staff also notes it found no evidence that Lot 16 ever held a separate dwelling. Whether Lot 16 historically carried its own house is not the legal test. Staff already finds that each lot independently qualifies under Section 1611 if the frontage were compliant. The question is whether these qualifying lots can be independently used, and strict application says they cannot. Requiring two independently platted lots to remain locked into a single structure simply because the structure happens to exist today is not a fair or sensible application of the ordinance. And this board rejected the same logic in Wayne Street in 2015. The hardship here, next slide. The hardship here is the lot's fixed relationship to a substandard right-of-way. First Street South has never been 30 feet wide at this location. These lots were platted 52 years before zoning was adopted, and the current owner acquired the property 126 years after the lots were created. The existing easement was dedicated in 1972 by a prior owner. This is not a self-created condition. Staff suggests the need for relief arises from the applicant's proposed redevelopment rather than from a pre-existing constraint. But every variance application arises in connection with the proposal. The relevant question is whether the 6-foot right-of-way deficiency was created by this applicant. And plainly, it was not. Next slide, please. One of the questions previewed at the authority hearing was whether an additional dedication is a fair or practical cure. These lots already carry an 8-foot easement for public street purposes. The paved area is 16 feet wide. Together, that yields 24 feet at this location, while 30 feet is required. The opposite side contributes nothing beyond the pavement edge. So the question is whether the applicant alone should bear the entire remaining burden of curing a public right-of-way deficiency it did not create. We submit that it should not. Next slide, please. This is not about maximizing house size. It is about a one-sided cure, what a one-sided cure would do to a code-compliant design that already includes project's key mitigation. As our architect explains, and you should have a copy of that, an additional 6-foot reduction in building depth would likely require sacrificing the garage or other essential first floor functions in order to preserve habitable rooms. That in turn would remove the off-street parking mitigation, the very feature that responds to the neighborhood's principal concern about this narrow street. The square footage loss of approximately 730 square feet, or 18%, and the redesign cost of approximately $35,000 in architectural fees alone reflect the cost of shifting the entire burden to one side of the street. Next slide, please. Granting the variance will not cause substantial detriment. The proposal adds only one net dwelling unit on 2 independently platted lots in an R6 district that contemplates detached single-family homes. Each home provides 2 off-street spaces, one in the garage and one in the driveway. The applicant is also installing a new 5-foot sidewalk along the full property frontage. The buildings meet the applicable R6 standards and sit well back from the street. So the project addresses parking and pedestrian conditions directly. It does not ignore them. Next slide, please. The timeline shows why the statutory criteria are met. The lots were platted in 1898, zoning came in 1950, the easement was recorded in 1972, the current owner acquired in 2024, the condition is not self-created, the relief does not change the use, and no alternative ordinance-based remedy exists. On the general or recurring criterion, this is not every substandard street in Arlington. It is 2 pre-zoning lots of record that otherwise qualify under Section 1611, fronting on a single 24-foot segment, already burdened by an 8-foot easement on one side with no alternative ordinance-based relief. That combination is not a condition that lends itself to a county-wide ordinance amendment. Wayne Street remains important here, not as a binding precedent, but as confirmation that this board has already approved relief under the same frontage rule. in materially similar circumstances. Next slide. In the end, the record supports approval. Strict application of section 1.5 leaves 2 historic lots locked into a single structure because of a 6-foot right-of-way deficiency. The condition predates both the applicant and the zoning ordinance. The proposal remains detached single-family residential, meets the applicable ordinance requirements, and includes parking and sidewalk mitigation. For these reasons, we respectfully request the board adopt alternative resolution number 2 and grant the variance. Thank you.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for this applicant?
I
Ms. McCoskey?
One question. So we can grant variances for the location of a structure, but only for the shape, size, or area of a lot.
Please.
And what I'm having trouble getting past to approve a variance here, and this came up last time as well, was that that's not what we're being asked to do. We're being asked to create, I mean, we're not being asked to decide, allow a variance to the shape, size, or area of a lot. And we're not the location of a structure. So what is it that we're allowed to do, what we have authority to do for a variance that you're asking us to do here?
Sure. So I think that this is very similar, as you pointed out, to the original authority argument, which we already settled 4-1. I think that it's very telling if you look at the staff report that staff has gone very hard, has specifically used words to try and avoid saying building location. They'll say, physical this, physical that, but the reality is what you decided before with the authority argument was that we think that this affects the building location. And I would say that that argument, which 4 of the 5 of you found compelling the last time, applies here. I actually believe that this is an attempt to bring the authority argument back into this situation.
Well, and I was the one who voted against it
Yes.
because I don't believe we have authority on this. And so that's just why I'm asking that question, because I would have to vote against this. And I understand that a majority of the members wanted to hear this matter because they were concerned about the outcome. But I'm still stuck there. That's all.
So if I could respond,
Please.
if you were to take the position that the authority, analysis has already been conducted and that decision has been made, I would hope that if there are comments or questions relating to the merits argument that you might have that we can clarify, I'm more than happy to answer those.
Ms. Malice, did you have, I thought I saw you.
Yeah, it's really a question just to clarify staff's position. I'm having trouble understanding what the public purpose or objective of allowing an existing single-family home in this location, but not 2 legally buildable structures. What's the difference between 1 and 2?
The current use is existing, and so that would be something that is outside of the control of our review of today. It's an existing condition. It could be, from the perspective of staff report, an existing non-conforming use, but ultimately we don't control policy decisions. So beyond the question as to whether they would be allowed to do their current request, the position of the staff's recommendation is that there is not authority for us to grant that type of relief via the subject variance itself.
But the relief is the same in both cases.
But there's Article 16 of the zoning ordinance provides for nonconformities, and this is something that would be seen as a nonconformity.
So would the 2 new structures, wouldn't they also be nonconformities? They'd have the same nonconformity as the existing.
That is correct, but those would be, this is seen as that those would be seen as, those were not approved via a variance. And staff's position is that there is not an ability to approve a variance even for what is there existing.
Yeah, because that's the tricky part, because if this house were to burn down, you're saying it could be rebuilt.
There's a provision in the zoning ordinance that allows for an act of God to allow for in-kind replacement of a nonconformity
Right. But you also say it could be expanded.
without creating and expanding the nonconformity beyond the provisions that allow it to be expanded in Article 16.
Yeah, that's where it's a fine argument. My concern is that, you basically we're creating an unbuildable lot here,
Unbuildable block.
an unbuildable
I mean,
lot.
maybe not the whole block, because I think the road might change, but an unbuildable set of houses.
Right.
And if I may hijack the conversation,
Sure.
I think the applicant and on this paper says that this house was built in 2005. Does that mean the zoning ordinance was different in 2005 because the house was built in 2005?
The provision that is related to the lot width requirement or the street width requirement has been there since it was there in 2005.
So how was this house built in 2005 if it didn't come before the BZA? Right.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
another, to piggyback off that, I think we talked about this briefly last time, but if the provision is only for an act of God, how are there 2 new builds next to this lot?
So there are 4 new builds next to this lot, 2 on either side. The 2, if you're facing the property to the left, when they were both constructed in the past 5 years, it's either 2020 or 2021, they both dedicated easements to create a resulting street width that is at least 30 feet overall. The 2 to the right that you can see there on the screen were constructed, the balance of whichever one was constructed in 2021 was 2020. And those were both given determination letters in the zoning determination letters that indicated they were buildable. And then later it was caught during the building permit review phase that those were not buildable due to the width of the street there.
But they were built anyway.
But they were built because the zoning determination had already been issued that identified they were buildable.
Go ahead.
Yeah, if I may, that the piece of paper that I gave you tonight also shows that if we're counting past 1950 of the modern zoning ordinance, there are actually quite a few homes that the county did not identify this as a potential issue that were allowed to build as new construction. And as far as I can tell, the only applicant that has taken the necessary steps to see a variance through, or that the county has flagged and required to go through this process, is this applicant. And this applicant, is prepared to have this discussion and to continue. But I just wanted to call that to your attention.
Wouldn't it make this property virtually worthless, right? Because like any structural alteration wouldn't be able to be done. They would have to come to us for a variance for structural alteration. And then I would assume that the staff report would have a similar recommendation of denial, right? So if this board doesn't have the authority to approve a variance, then I don't know.
I think the idea that a house can only be expanded or rebuilt because of a tornado or a fire, there's all sorts
rebuilt, not expanded.
right. There's all
Right.
sorts of reasons why a home may need work, not just limited to natural disasters. And the home, essentially, you can't do that with it. I would agree. I mean, may as well be a park.
Right.
It's worthless. Otherwise, very expensive land to add.
I believe we have a speaker. Let's hear from our speaker. Miss Corey? Oh, and he promised. He promised.
That's all right. All right, can you hear me
We
okay
can.
now?
We can.
Okay. My name's Elizabeth Corey. I share the back fence with 2717. So my side yard borders 2717's backyard. I drive down first, so mine is the cul-de-sac, like the corner of the cul-de-sac, 2800. That one, yep. So I drive down First Street South 3 to 4 times a day on average. The trash comes every Friday and the trash trucks are able to come and do their thing. There is no problem with getting down the street. There's parking on one side of the street. The street is fully functional. People can drive both directions. There are no problems with it. And where I'm confused, I know that 2 other neighbors have objected. One of the other neighbors suggested that many of the other neighbors are not in favor of it. I've spoken to the neighbors. There are 10 neighbors that I'm aware of on that straight street that are in favor of it. There are 2 that have explicitly said no. Those are the 2 that wrote in, who also happen to be on the side of the street that has no easement. And they're the only ones that have expressed objection. The other 2 have not expressed anything. I only have 30 seconds left. I have a big problem with this because it feels very inequitable. There were 2 new houses built on both sides of it. Right across from my cul-de-sac, there's a park, and that street's 19 feet wide. 2 houses have been torn down and rebuilt since I purchased the property in 2019, and there were no problems with that. I don't understand why this property that's bordering my property that does need to come down, that is not in great condition, can't be built. And it's directly affecting me. I'm getting mice. Like, I want something to happen to this property.
Thank you for your comments.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I'll put a motion on the table for discussion.
Thank you, Ms. Malice.
I'm in case number V-12094-25-VA-3. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt alternate resolution number 2 as advertised.
Second.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Malice for the alternative resolution for approval as advertised, made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion?
Is this
Miss-
just for the one?
Yes.
Just one of them?
One at a time.
I'll say this now and it'll apply to both. I won't reiterate, but I understand the inequity that people see here. Unfortunately, I do think that the proper solution to this kind of problem is something else that, the county could, some other way they could adjust the street system. That's the right way to fix it. I continue to be concerned about the authority issue, and therefore I'll vote no, but I understand that that's not going to be prevailing in this case, and that's fine.
Thank you, Ms. McCoskey.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I appreciate staff's work on this because it was a complicated case and you had to remember a lot of different ordinance sections to get through this. So that is noted and appreciated. Thank you. I'm troubled by just not even the equity, it's the logic of the situation where a property owner can't build unless they convey something to the county, and that it's entirely on their backs to correct a situation that they didn't really cause.
Thank you, Ms. Malice. I echo that sentiment, and if this does get appealed to the circuit court, I'm happy to cause that, to let that be their problem and see how it goes. Hearing nothing else, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
No,
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-1.
And next case.
Next case, please. Thank you.
Oh, we already called it.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Thank you. Ms. Malice, you have a motion.
In case V-12095-26-VA-4, I move the alternate resolution number 2 proposal as advertised. And I assume there's no speakers, but I don't want to shortcut that either.
Well, we called them together, so the speakers, I
Okay.
assume that there are no different speakers,
Okay.
right? So I think this, because we
That's
called
my
them together, we
motion,
can
yeah.
have the speakers together, right?
Okay.
A motion made for, the alternative motion for approval as advertised, made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? I'll just add that I want to incorporate the comments in the hearing that we had from last month into this hearing, just in case this goes further. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
No.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for approval as advertised passes 4-1. Ms. Klein, can you call our next case, please?
Case number V-12089-98-26-UP-1, a use permit request by David Fasciatelli and Sonia Garduno, the owners, to permit a street setback of 18 feet to the porch, 17 feet to the porch eve, instead of 21 feet to the porch and 19.5 feet to the porch eve, as required from the 12th Street South right-of-way, regarding a new front porch addition to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 5045 12th Street South, Columbia Forest. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions, and note there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed, which includes a comment form and a summary of outreach efforts.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this? Is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application? Please come on down.
Press the button or we're good?
Yeah, I think I hear you. Is it?
Oh, it's red. So we're
Yep.
good.
We're good. Yep.
Thank
First-
you.
Yeah, first off, thank you. Good evening. Appreciate all the effort that's gone in from your team to get us to this point.
I'm Sonia Garduno. This is my husband, David Fasciatelli, and we are here to respectfully request a setback variance to allow us to build a front porch on our home. This is not simply a design preference for us. It's a practical, thoughtful improvement that we believe will benefit not only our family, but the entire block. The primary reason for our request is safety. Our backyard, unfortunately, is largely unusable due to a steep hill that takes up more than half of the space, which creates hardship. Because of this, our children and many of the neighborhood kids naturally gravitate to the front of the house, which happens to be one of the only flat, usable areas on the block. As parents, we want to be able to supervise them closely, but right now that often means standing or sitting awkwardly near the street. A front porch would give us a safe, comfortable vantage point to actively watch over not just our own children, but others who gather and play there. It allows us to be present, engaged, and responsive in a way that directly improves safety for everyone. Beyond safety, we truly believe a front porch fosters something increasingly rare and valuable, a sense of community. Front porches invite interaction. They create natural opportunities to connect with neighbors, to say hello, to keep an eye out for one another, and to build relationships. Instead of homes feeling closed off, a porch creates a welcoming presence. It turns a house into a part of the neighborhood fabric rather than just a structure set back from it. From an aesthetic standpoint, the addition of a front porch would enhance the overall appearance of our home and align it more closely with the character of surrounding neighborhoods. Our goal is to thoughtfully enhance our home in a way that it fits naturally within the broader area and elevates the streetscape. We've also taken care to ensure that the proposed porch will be appropriately scaled and designed to complement the existing structure without overwhelming the lot or negatively affecting neighboring properties. We are committed to being respectful of the intent behind setback requirements while asking for reasonable flexibility given the unique constraints of our property. At its core, this request is about making our home and street place safer, more functional, and more connected to the community around us. It's about creating a space where we can responsibly supervise children, engage with neighbors, and contribute positively to the character of our street. We appreciate your time and consideration, and we respectfully ask for your support in granting this variance.
Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for this applicant?
I have
Ms.
one
Mel.
minor question. In the supplemental material, there was a letter, I guess signed by you. Is it this first one? Do we know what?
That starts
The
to our
letter that we
valued
sent-
neighbors.
The letter we sent to our neighbors?
That's the letter, and that was just for our information. There was no neighbor
Yeah, just- yeah,
associated
yeah.
with this one. Okay,
The identical thing that.
okay, thank you.
Would anyone like to start us off or make a motion?
I'll make a motion if you put it up there. Case V-12098-26 UP1. I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit subject to the conditions listed.
Have a second.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Mr. Kumana for approval as advertised. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Enjoy your new porch.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Ms. Klein, can you call the next case, please?
Case number V-12099-26-VA-1, a variance request by Douglas Hoffman, the owner, to permit a lot coverage of 43.5% instead of 43% allowed for a one-family dwelling in the R6 zoning district with a qualifying front porch regarding a front porch addition to an existing one-family dwelling on a corner lot in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 2626 North Harrison Street, Yorktown. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance request, and the alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Thank you. That's what I was looking for. Do my colleagues have questions for staff? Is the applicant with us? I'm sorry? Red means on, yes.
You can also.
You could also raise it up because I can barely hear you.
There's a, to the right, there's a button that will raise the whole podium.
That's fine.
Better.
So in something in something that is unfortunate, I did not appreciate that staff had recommended a denial and had not read that denial until this evening, nor had the individual that I had working on this with me. I seem to recall paying a non-trivial fee to have this heard. I was wondering if there was perhaps a way that there could be a continuance towards the next months so that I could have the full time to digest the staff's comments and come back better prepared. And that is entirely on me. And I am sorry for taking the time I'm taking right now, but that I think everyone would benefit most from that procedure.
I know,
I have,
Ms. Miles?
you're requesting a deferral
Right.
Continuance, deferral, whatever word you use.
for
here.
1 month or?
1 month would be fine.
So I
yes.
was just going to say, next month is both our work session and we have 10 agenda items and an appeal that the 10 might include an appeal, but nonetheless appeals
Right.
go for a while. And I suspect that we'll have a large number of speakers for that appeal.
June,
So I think that we would be looking at June.
yeah.
Okay.
And if as a result of your digesting the report, if you want to make any changes to the report after working with staff, that likely wouldn't be done by staff, you and staff by next month anyway.
And if in digesting their comments, you come into conformance, you don't have to come back.
Even better.
Right. So I think, yeah, the sentiment I'm getting is that deferral is probably my best option. And so I would like to respectfully request that.
So
Until, and
until
June was,
Yeah.
if that's the recommendation,
Yeah.
we'll go with that.
because like all the deadlines for May have been passed already, and we're expecting a pretty hefty agenda for May as well.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
In case V-12099-26-VA-1, I move that this case be deferred to our June hearing. I don't have the date, but our June hearing.
It's the 10th of June.
It's at the 10th, June 10th hearing.
I'll second.
A motion by Ms. Malice, and I think Ms. McCoskey, did you second or did Ms. Frischman? I didn't
Oh,
catch who it
I
was.
did.
You did, okay.
I don't know.
I heard a voice, but I didn't know who it was. Seconded by Ms. McCoskey. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Frischman?
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey?
Aye.
Mr. Kimona?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for deferral till June 10th passes 5-0.
Thank you.
We will see you then.
I'm sorry about the time this evening.
No worries.
Thank you.
No
No worries. Ms. Klein, can you call the next one, please?
Case number V-12100-26-UP-2, a use permit request by Kevin Lorenz and Jonathan Eng, the owners to permit a street setback of 9 feet to the building wall, 8.2 feet to the building eave, instead of 25 feet to the building wall, 21 feet to the building eave, as required from the North Powhatan Street right-of-way, and to permit a total aggregate side yard width of 16.5 feet instead of 18 feet as required, regarding the enclosure of an existing deck to create a new sunroom addition to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 6201 22nd Street North in Lee Way, Overlee. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution granting the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this application? Hearing none, is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application?
Hi.
Hi.
Most of us don't do this very often, but I'm Jonathan Ng and this is Kevin Lorenz. We're requesting a use permit.
I'm sorry, can you speak up?
Yeah, requesting a use permit for enclosing our deck. The previous owner from 2024, they actually had a 3-story addition approved, which is a lot more massive project. We're only asking to enclose the deck. One of the reasons for that is we both have elderly parents and our family room is downstairs, and we would love to use this room where they do not have to climb and go up and down the stairs as they come to visit us. We also have a new child with us who's been home with us almost 3 years from Colombia. So this is a space that we really would love to have. And if you look at the design, we are trying to make it to kind of fit into the neighborhood as well. We're not doing crazy all glass. We want it to be a little bit more of a colonial that kind of fits with the neighborhood as well. We've gotten approval signed by all the neighborhoods around us as well. We actually went and reached out to the Civic Association as well, and they actually said to us that we were the first one that ever reached out for them to get an approval. They came by. Gina and I had a long talk at Overlee, and she approved it. So I don't know if you had any questions for us. And also want to add that zoning was very helpful, especially Ms. Klein.
Not a question. Just a comment. It's nice to meet the people that beat my offer for this house a couple of years ago. So yeah,
Well, that's a no vote right there.
I can confirm personally that there was a building permit for a 3-story addition to this house. I saw it too.
Well, nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you. No, I'm glad you all are enjoying.
He won't hold it against you. It's
I-
funny.
I do have a question.
Ms. McCoskey, please.
Yes, so I have to say that I have walked my dogs down that little pathway many times. But what it seems to me is happening with this lot is it's technically a corner lot. And that's why you have this odd 25-foot setback on that side. And reducing it to 9 seems entirely reasonable because functionally that lot isn't functioning as a corner lot because there's no street. There's just that little pathway.
Remember this now.
Yes.
We did this. Yes.
And so I guess here's my question. I suggest that we add a condition to this use permit that would say, and I'll just sort of read it, but essentially it would say that the back setback from what's functionally the back of your lot, the one that's up towards 23rd Street and all that, so that you would agree that you won't build structures within 25 feet of that lot, because currently that would be a 9-foot setback, because technically it's a side yard for you. So I just,
So to treat it as an
What-
interior lot.
right, what that does is it sort of converts it. Now, maybe everybody else is happy to approve it, whether we do that or not, but I just would suggest, and I'll read the language so it's here, and then I can give it to staff because I have it written down, but it would say that the applicant agrees that because the 25-foot setback is being reduced to 9 feet and is similar to a side yard, comma, no structure shall be built within 25 feet of the northernmost property line of the subject lot unless, I think that's just a period. So that's essentially what we would
Great,
say.
yeah.
So I suggest that we just add that condition to the use permit. And then I would definitely support that.
I would definitely want to hear how the applicants react to that. What is your?
They were nodding vigorously.
I know, but go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Yes.
Because that is just one person's spot.
I actually agree. Yeah.
I mean, you
I-
probably wouldn't, it's kind of slopey back there anyway, but
We have plans to, it doesn't show in this photo, but because it's gone, we had all these humongous pine trees and they were all leaning because the root system is, so we had them down. So we have had plans. We would like to replant shrubberies and trees on that back to give you that more of that original look that was there before with the pine trees. So not buildings, but yeah, landscape, just landscape, just landscape.
I think that actually seems pretty equitable to me, so that then a future owner, not that this owners would do that, but then don't go back and build some, big addition that fits into the setback,
Right.
but then makes it incompatible with the neighborhood, right? So I think that I would tend to support that, although
Because
we could be creating problems for the future version of us.
I was going to add that when we were out in the back and we can see all the back homes, with the exception of that one garage, there's no other structure in the back when we look out to the backyard. It's just the landscape, trees and
Yards and
yeah.
it's like, why did the county stop the street there? No one knows. That was a rhetorical. Right.
Can I ask a point of question
fine.
regarding the proposed condition? Would you want this condition to also apply to detached accessory buildings, such as a shed or something?
Mm.
Or an accessory structure, such as a trellis?
I had it written that no, because I think I took the language of the ordinance on setback saying no structure shall be built within that. So that would include sheds. And maybe that's not a good thing to have that kind of restriction in there, meaning you couldn't put a garden shed back there. That could cause an issue.
Especially for a future homeowner,
Yeah.
right?
So
Ms. Malice?
can somebody tell me right now what the setback is from the back of the house to how much room do they have back there? Do you know offhand? I mean, it doesn't have to be exact, but from the back of your house to the back of your lot.
I just want to
How
treat
much
it as
would
an
you have to
interior
work-
lot.
left to work with?
I think it's approximately 72.6 feet from the rear lot line, as
70,
measured from
okay,
both the building wall
72.
and
So
deck.
you have another 50 feet to work with before you'd get to the 25-foot setback. So that you could put quite a bit in that 50
Right.
feet before you even had that setback issue.
Yeah.
It's a very deep lot. We'll leave it to you, Ms. Muskrowski, whether you want to include that.
Well, I think I just offer that for everyone's consideration if the rest of the
I would-
BZA doesn't
I
think we
would
should do it.
support it if,
I just think this lot should be an interior lot, right?
Right.
Unless that road is enlarged, right?
Right.
I think using the word structure is appropriate. And how it's interpreted, if there's ever a future plan from this applicant or anyone else, would be addressed then.
We'll see them again. So I will let Ms. McCoskey make a motion. If she finds it.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution with the condition as read in the meeting tonight added to it, granting the use permit V1210026 UP2, subject to the conditions, including the new one.
Second.
A motion by Ms. McCoskey for approval with an additional condition, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a good night.
Ms. Klein, can you call our next one?
Yes. Case number V-12101-25-UP-1, a use permit request by Andrea Molina Tehran, the owner, to permit a rear setback of 5.5 feet to the carport instead of 25 feet to the carport as required, and to permit a rear setback of 5 feet to the deck and 11.4 feet to the patio instead of 21 feet to the deck and patio as required, regarding an accessory structure and carport with a rooftop level deck, retaining walls, driveway, and an above grade patio addition in the R27 zoning district on the premises known as 2160 North Brandywine Street, Glebewood. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. 2 alternative resolutions have been provided to the BZA see fit to approve the use permit request as advertised with conditions, or approve the patio component of the use permit request with conditions.
But this one is a variance.
I'm sorry, did I read them out of order? Yes, I did. I can read the other one. You want to hear them together? I'm just kidding. Okay.
I mean, I only picked that up when you said use permit.
Sorry. Okay. Case number V-1201, 12101-25-VA-1, a variance request by Andrea Molina Tehran, the owner, to permit a total lot coverage of 78% instead of 56% as required, and to permit setbacks of less than 50% landscaping as required, regarding an accessory structure, which is a carport with a rooftop level deck, retaining walls, driveway, and an above grade patio in the R2-7 zoning district on the premises known as 2160 North Brandywine Street, Glebewood. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance. And alternative resolution has been provided to the BZA see fit to approve the variance request as advertised, subject to the listed conditions.
Thank you. Any questions for staff on this application? None. Is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application?
My name is Andrea Molina Tehran. I'm the owner of 2160 North Brandywine Street. Like the previous applicants, I've never done this before, but the reason for the structure is because of the lack of parking in the neighborhood. It's all street parking. There's no assigned parking. And so the structure would allow me to make better use of my space behind the property, allowing me to put a deck on top of the carport. And the carport also serves as storage for things in the back, like trash bins and recycling, in addition to being able to alleviate the parking hardships. But honestly, though the strict application of the terms of the ordinance does not unreasonably restrict the utilization of the property, there is, I modeled the plan off of a neighboring property, 2124 North Brandywine Street. So there is a precedent set in the neighborhood for a very similar structure. And that's what I have.
Do my colleagues have questions for this applicant? No. Discussion.
So I'm looking at this proposal, and we have standards that we have to meet for a variance. And the variance standard is a hardship. In other words, there's something unusual about your property that is not shared by others. And I don't see what that would be in your case. And the amount of overage you're requesting is quite significant.
Sorry, so the hardship that's not shared by everybody doesn't have parking, and that's what that is in reference
And
to.
the hardship's got to be part of the property. And so
Okay.
a physical condition relating to the property. Right, so under the state code, I'm not sure parking qualifies as a physical condition relating to the property. I think that's what this board struggles with in, not just this case, but, we want to grant every kind of thing, project that everyone wants to do.
Yeah.
But we're bound by state code in what we're allowed to approve. And that's based on, one, the hardship, and it can't be shared by, the whole neighborhood.
Yes, your lot is very similar to other lots on your street.
And that neighboring property that got a permit to do a similar structure.
Pardon? Could you speak into the
Oh,
microphone?
sorry. There's a neighboring property that got a permit to build a very similar structure.
I am happy to provide clarification about that approval if that is of interest to the board.
Certainly.
That approval is in reference to 2124 North Brandywine Street, which is approved via a subject variance request in 2017. It's approximately 300 feet away from the property. And the structures approved through that variance were an accessory building and a trellis. So those two types of structures have different setback requirements than what is applied to what is in this case requested for the carport, the deck, and the patio.
That's helpful. Thank you.
And we don't have pictures of that, obviously, right? Because it's not before us.
21.
No.
Right.
Presumably, it wouldn't have been nearly the
Yeah, this is.
excessive coverage.
Right. It would not have been at.
That would not have
70%
been a
coverage.
coverage issue. Yeah, in my view, this just doesn't qualify for a variance.
I agree with Ms. Malice. I don't see how we can meet the standard here to approve it.
Would someone like to make a motion?
Sure.
I can make it if you put it up. Are we doing them separately?
Yeah, I
yes.
guess we have to.
Okay. I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance V-12101-25-VA-1.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman for denial as advertised, seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion? I'll just say for the record that I don't think we meet the hardship test here, nor do I believe we meet the general or reoccurring test as well. I think that there's no hardship and that this property condition is general and reoccurring. Hearing nothing else, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey?
Aye.
Mr. Kumana?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for denial passes 5-0. Sorry.
Okay.
Then use permit.
Can you call the use permit?
I
Vetted
move
it
the
now.
Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached, oops.
She has to.
No, Ms. Klein has to call the use
I
permit.
Oh,
did
so
read it
I
in
thought you
error
did vote.
previously. I will read it again now.
Almost.
Case number V-12101-25-UP-1, a use permit request by Andrea Molina Tehran, the owner, to permit a rear setback of 5.5 feet to the carport instead of 25 feet to the carport as required, and to permit a rear setback of 5.5 feet to the deck and 11.4 feet to the patio instead of 21 feet to the deck and patio as required regarding an accessory structure, a carport with a rooftop level deck, retaining walls, driveway, and an above-grade patio addition in the R2-7 zoning district on the premises known as 2160 North Brandywine Street, Gleewood. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request, and 2 alternative resolutions have been provided.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. The applicant has left, I believe. So
We
there was no
still
one
need
to
to
speak
make
to
a
the
motion.
application, so I think we can go right, there's no speakers, we can go right to a motion.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit V-12101-25-UP-1.
Second.
A motion for denial of the use permit made by Ms. Freshman, seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion? I will call the roll. Ms. Freshman, I'm sorry, Ms. Malice,
Deny, aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Ms. Chair votes aye. Motion for denial passes 5-0. Next one, please.
Case number V-12102-26-VA-1, a variance request by Kylie King and Josh Stolzfuzz, I'm sorry, of Arlington Economic Development, the applicant on behalf of the Arlington County Board, the owner, to permit a street setback of 11.3 feet to the structure instead of 25 feet to the structure as required from South 4 Mile Run Drive, and a street setback of 16.8 feet to the structure, 37 feet from the center line, instead of 25 feet to the structure and 50 feet from the center line, as required from South Nelson Street regarding the installation of an accessory structure, public art, in the S-3A zoning district on the premises known as 3700 South 4 Mile Run Drive, Green Valley. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the variance request. And please note there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed. And we have an additional speaker who signed up to speak on this item virtually.
Thank you. Ms.
Yeah.
McCoskey, go ahead.
Oh, do you have a question?
I just had
Go ahead.
I just wanted, my question was, why is this not something the county board could have just ordained? I'm confused. Well, like, why are we here when, this applicant is on behalf of the county board? Why could the county board not have just?
It is a past practice that despite a property or a project occurring on a county-owned property in a public zoning district still are subject to setback requirements. And so the practice of the county has been to seek a variance request for those types of encroachments because of the.
But this one strikes me as different, right? I know that we've approved one for the firehouse in my time on the board. I don't think we've ever had any thing temporary like this that comes before us as a variance. And we'll get to the actual merits, but I was just confused by that. That's all. And this is also in we don't get a lot of S3As in front of us, if at all ever. This is, most of our bread and butter is residential.
And I will note that is typically often because there are a lot of encroachment or provisions that allow for encroachments into the setbacks for a lot of types of structures in the S-3A zoning district. But in this case, public art of this kind is not enumerated as being allowed those encroachments.
Mr. Chairman?
Ms. Mouse.
Again, that would suggest that this would be right for the county board to include this kind of encroachment in that ordinance.
Which that's what exactly where that seems that's a requirement for a variance. That it is not right for county board action. And I'm sorry, I interrupted you, Ms. McCoskey.
No, that I will say that when I read that provision about whatever number it is, 3.2, whatever, it ends with 8. It struck me that there was enough general language in there, but I assume this was sort of predetermined, but it struck me that this is the kind of thing that is, it's no different from a swing set. There's an activity. It's not an active activity, but I don't understand how anybody, because there is language that makes those provisions not strictly limited, but, or it has, or similar things. So it just seemed to me that I didn't understand why this wasn't included in that language. But I assume that everyone talked about that before it got here.
Well, I'll just point to some of the staff analysis that is listed under the third finding, which does indicate that while it is, I'm going to find the specific language. While the county typically amends the zoning ordinance where specific regulations would further the vision of an adopted plan, the plan in this case did not anticipate exactly how the arts-oriented vision would be realized, and so making specific zoning ordinance amendments impractical.
Yes, in terms of the plan, but in the overarching ordinance about how S3A is handled, it seemed like there was wiggle room in there to interpret this.
And this variance is specifically to this sculpture plan, right? Conceivably, future exhibits could come before us because this is just a temporary one, right?
So the request of the applicant is for this location to be a permanent approval, and the rotation of the sculpture upon it could be temporary in nature.
Normally, we would approve specific plans, and I know that there is specific feedback for the specific types of sculpture in here in the supplemental material. And so, you know, if we apply the kind of the same requirements that we do for a residential, where we require specific plans, and if the plans change, they're back before us. And so approving this, we would essentially not be doing, we'd be changing from our like status quo of our current procedure.
Can I follow up on that?
Please.
Because the advertisement refers to the structure, which seems to be very specific.
That's why I thought it was temporary, right?
Well, even if it was a temporary, you know.
I mean, I'm sorry, that right.
Right.
Yeah.
So as opposed to a permanent encroachment, you know, allowed, a permanent setback. So to me, it's not exactly clear what we're approving.
Ultimately, it is up to your discretion whether this board only feels comfortable in making a motion for, say, to approve an item, and they would only want to approve the specific structure that is in front of you. That is your purview. If you instead interpret the discussion of public art in this location and more generally approve the public art structure there, it's truly at your decision.
I think we should hear from the
We should definitely hear
applicants,
from the applicant, but I
we
think
have a
there-
lot to talk about.
We have a lot to talk about. I think, agree with that. Is the representative of the county board here?
That's funny.
That's what I only say that because that's what it says in front of me.
Thank you, Chairman Kaplan and board members, staff, colleagues. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you. My name is Josh Stoltzfus. I am the acting director for the Cultural Affairs Division for Arlington Economic Development, and here to speak about our temporary public art variance for our property here at 3700 South 4 Mile Run. Next slide, please. A little bit of context. Cultural Affairs facility at 3700 South 4 Mile Run is the headquarters for cultural affairs in Arlington, includes offices for staff, studios, both the new ceramic and printmaking studios, rehearsal spaces, performance spaces, and gallery space as well, a hub here for the arts in Arlington. Next slide, please. This map shows the Cultural Affairs Campus, or the CAD campus as we've been calling it. The blue outlay is our main building, but then right next to it, it's important to note that is the 2700 art space. That is a new temporary outdoor modular space for arts activities, performances, and art making, which will be coming online here in the spring. That's in the green area there. You can see a rendering of that directly to the right. Surrounding that, of course, you see the amenities in this area as well, including Jenny Dean Park, the dog park, and various local businesses, including Arlington Food Assistance Center and a number of automotive shops as well. Next slide, please. We have a lot of activities coming on with this expanded campus here in the next summer, including the proposed public art there at the corner of South 4 Mile Run and South Nelson Street. Also, a new mural that will be installed on our building, temporary mural by the artist Mas Paz, local Arlington artist, as well as the 2700 space, which I just referenced, which will include a monthly art market called Spark, which will anchor our new activities as we build out new programming and amenities for the local community. Next slide, please. The process in front of you in this particular structure and the mural that I just referenced were all part of a NEA grant that the county applied for and received. These were ARPA funds. That tells you how many years back that goes. We were one of 2 municipalities in Virginia to receive that grant. The panel that selected the competitive process included members of the Cultural Affairs team, members of the Department of Parks and Recreation, and also external jurors from the K-Fritz Foundation as well. Next slide, if we could. We selected 4 artists to represent both history, civic life, and environmental issues here in Arlington. 2 of these have been performed already. You see Munit Mesfin and Amy K. Bormet, who created new music that was performed last fall, honoring artists that called this area home. And then the muralist that I just referenced, Mas Paz, Federico Frum, and our artist in front of us today, Mr. Adam Henry. Next slide, please. Just a few examples of Mr. Henry's work. You can see the temporary sculpture that was presented at Museum of Contemporary Art, Arlington, as well as some of his other work that's presented on National Landing at the MoCA Innovation Studio as well. Next slide, please. The grant application that we received and was awarded for Mr. Henry is the overview here is included, which includes a mock-up of the sculpture in question. It's also interactive, so folks can scan the code on that, and then monthly, the artist will select some of the photos that are uploaded and create customized pet portraits for their owners. The sculpture itself is meant to represent the history and the growth of the pet population and the role that pets play here in our lives here in Arlington and in the larger community. Next slide, please. This is the plat from 1983 that has the overlay of the issues in question here. I think it's important to note our building itself, 3700, it's non-conforming, is my understanding. And so for our ability to present any public art on the exterior of this building, as it is currently written, would not be allowed. Hence our ask for the variance. You can see a mock-up there on the corner of the building, which is to give you a sense of the scale of the project that we are proposing. Next slide, please. Support for this comes in the 4 Mile Run Valley Area Plan, specifically calling out the importance of public art and enhancing place and supporting arts activities, and specifically the arts district that the arts activities that are planned currently and expanding here in this area. Specifically, I'd like to call out the idea that public art be used to establish a landmark or a gateway. From South 4 Mile Run, you will see there are 2 entry points, South Oakland and South Nelson. If you look at the blue square, which is our building, those 2 streets frame that and the new space as well, effectively creating an entry point for people coming in from the main road for arts activities, both in the building, newly expanded through the ceramic and printmaking studios, but also with the new exterior space, which is coming online as well. In effect, we are creating a landmark, a entry point, if you will, to bring the community back off of the main road into the activities and the art making that is happening in the back. Next slide, please. This is also supported through other documents, including Enriching Lives, the Arts and Cultural Strategy for Arlington County, as well as the Arlington Economic Development Strategic Plan for the years 2024 and 2028. Next slide, please. We have spoken to and engaged a number of businesses in the local area, including notably the Arlington Food Assistance Center, various auto businesses, and other businesses in the immediate surrounding area about support for this. The next slide, please. Additionally, we made other outreach to local artists, those using our building and those that are living in the community, and had discussions with civic association presidents as well. All of the supporting documentation is included, of course, in the packet, and there was, I understand, some also not supporting. And with that, if we have the next slide, I think it is just, there he is, there's the dog.
Thank you.
I thank you for your time.
Do my colleagues have questions for the applicant?
Yeah, you sort of got a flavor of some of the questions that we already asked. I think there's different questions, but this request is not specifically for this structure, or in other words, could the art piece change from time to time? Are you just requesting the location, or are you requesting this specific art piece?
We're here specifically about this artwork in this location. If the board sees fit to include extending that for future artworks, we would happily accept that. If a more narrow ruling is in line for just this work in this location for a limited time, we also would accept that as well.
Okay, so if we're going with this structure, the permission would sunset with the removal of this art piece.
We would find that acceptable.
Okay, that would be the one question. Because one of the concerns I had was that, you've drawn a box, and presumably this art piece fits in the box. Usually when we're doing encroachments, it's kind of a line rather than a box. It's, so many feet from this street that runs some distance as opposed to a very specific small spot. And was there maybe a reason for going with the box rather than just sort of getting permission to do it any place so many feet from the street on either side?
Well, I'm not, if I understand your question, there is, as in the existing regulations, because our building itself is not conforming, we can't go back far enough to meet that.
Right.
But if you're asking, is it possible to provide an exact line I believe that was represented in the slide that we had there, if we go back to the one with the
I'm
plat
looking
that demonstrates that.
At the plat that's in your package that shows strictly a box as opposed to two lines that would say anything from this point to the building is permissible. Is your map different than what I'm looking at?
It's the green box on that last page.
Yeah, it's the
I'm
green
going to phone a
box.
friend for a moment.
That's what's on the plat too.
Yeah.
Hi, hello, I'm also listed, I'm Kylene. I just wanted to say that I was the one who put the box, but the actual measurements, as I understand it, are actually pointing to the, essentially north corner and northeast corner. So it's those measurements. So the rest of the box isn't, because it's only related to the setbacks. So when it's being described, it's talking about.
So you're going the 18 feet from
South Nelson
Street there, Oakland. Is that Oakland?
No,
Yeah, so specific to the
It's 18
setbacks
feet
from the
from
center line and the right of.
13 feet from.
Exactly.
Okay, and okay. That makes sense. Is there speakers?
Are there speakers? I was wondering the same thing.
There is one.
There, we do have a speaker. Why don't we hear from the speaker and then we can have a conversation.
Thank you.
Virtually Mr. Charity Jr.
I don't see that name listed in Teams. There is a phone number, so if you are muted, if you could press *6 to unmute yourself.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Good evening. You have to excuse me. I'm somewhat in transit right now, but I'll go ahead anyway. So my name is Edward Charity Jr. I currently reside in the Shirlington Site Development.
Sorry, sir.
Yes.
We are having trouble. We can hear you, but we're having trouble making out what you're saying.
A little garbled.
It's a little garbled. Maybe your volume is too high or you're too close to the microphone.
Okay. I'll see if I can make adjustments for that.
Try again.
Is that any better?
Maybe marginally, yeah.
Okay, I'll just try to speak up louder. Hopefully that will help. This won't be very long. So once again, my name is Edward Charity Jr. I currently reside in the Shirlington Crest Development near the intersection of South 4 Mile Run and South Sterlington. I've reviewed the BZA application for what I refer to as the Golden Retriever art piece to be placed at 3700 South 4 Mile Run. The proposed location is directly across from Shirlington Crest. In fact, based on the application, the art piece appears to face our community. Based on the information of the project and the application, including the sketch of the art piece, I'm in full support of the application. This piece is in line with other public art pieces in the county and fits in with the community, specifically its proximity to the Skeleton Dog Park and the 2700 Nelson Street Park. It will serve as a great landmark for the area. The proposed location is a desolate corner that is poorly maintained. This project will be a significant improvement. I understand the piece is funded by grant and county funds. Once again, I'm in full support of the application and the associated project. Thank you. Hopefully you were able to hear most of that.
Thank you for your comments. Discussion.
In our supplemental material, there was some opposition to this variance. Did you guys have a chance to look at it? In both cases, it dealt with the nature of the art piece, not the location, but actually the nature of it. Is there additional outreach that you would be doing or with the community on the questions that were raised?
In terms of the subject matter of the sculpture itself,
yes.
Because this was a competitive grant process that we received, we were asking for fully formed proposals. It did not go under that type of review in terms of this art or that art.
Okay. Because in one case it was a business owner worrying about being a dog, and in another case it was the civic, a member of the civic of the area concerned that it didn't really relate to what some people might perceive as concerns of their neighborhood. I don't think it's our purview to really comment on the nature of the art, but simply the location. But I just want, I understand what I understand what the art policy.
Right, and I would say that, putting aside the debate about that, the exact reason, one of the primary motivations for choosing it was the nature of the work because of the prevalence of that community in the surrounding area. We work down there and it is wall to wall every day, dogs in and around the community,
right there, yeah.
Both the dog park and the surrounding community and folks utilizing the park. I certainly understand concerns that folks have about dogs off leash in the park, but that is, I would say, a parks issue.
Okay. I have another question for staff. Now that the applicant has clarified that it's 13 feet from 4 Mile Run and 18 feet from Oakland. Does that line, how far does that line run? Does it run the whole property now?
No,
In both directions?
the variance request is truly really related to the structure approved. So they could not then add then say another, they couldn't remove it there and then, move it 13 feet down the road within that
Right.
same setback.
And so the box is important to
The box is a representation of where the structure would be located, but typically when staff is conducting a review of plans, they're looking at the closest point of the structure to the property line. And so that is the focus of plan review.
So it's sort of just like we use the plans rule. The variance is based on these specific plans.
The variance is based upon the specific language in the adopting resolution, which if it was approved would indicate the exact feet encroachment, but it does tie back to the conditions and state the structure in its location as shown in the plans attached to, et cetera, the staff report.
Is there an end date? This is temporary. Is there an end date to
Yes.
this? When I don't know I don't know how this board feels, but if they were inclined to approve it, and I don't know if that's the case, what's the end date? Right? I would suggest if we are going to approve it, that we put that in the resolution as a condition.
We would be accepting of some kind of limit. The nature of temporary public art is, I've seen all manner of temporary. We've addressed that question specifically about the 2700 art space, which is supposed to be temporary as well. What does that mean? We've generally accepted the language with that space, and I would say I would be put forward that we apply that as well to this, is in the 3 to 5 year range. It's of course conditioned
That's a
on.
different temporary than what I would have thought that this request was for.
Oh,
That's why I'm glad we clarified that.
I'm sorry if I'm being obtuse. I don't mean to be, and I apologize as being the newbie on the board, but it's a commercial street, like not non-residential. The county owns the property. It's a temporary art piece. Why are we discussing this?
That was my question at the beginning. That was because that was exactly my question at the beginning.
It feels like government for the sake of government, which I know is like a feature of Arlington, not a bug. It's one of our charming hallmarks here. But I mean, we're talking about
I actually don't know which direction you're going here.
we're talking about the distance between a road and a paw here, and I don't know. I just feel like if the county wants to have their dog art there, like it's great.
So I understood when I read the report that really this is a reservation of a permanent space, a 5 by 8 foot space where the variance is approved based on the box that we have here. And this art is temporary, but something else could be placed there. If something went closer to the street or was much bigger than the 5 by 8, they might have to come in for a new approval for something else. But my understanding is we're not putting a time limit on it.
I misinterpreted the temporary, right? So I came in with that initial and then I heard temporary and I said, oh, this is just going to be temporary. And then I got confused.
So this particular piece is temporary, but the reservation is permanent.
That's my understanding of what was being requested
But
from the
3 to 5
staff
years
report.
temporary though, right? So
Right. It's a
Permanent
good
is
long,
permanent.
yeah. They just want to be able to change the
Right.
art as public art evolves in this location.
Ms. Freshman,
Is this Labrador ready to go?
yes.
Does it exist?
No, it needs to be built. It's built on site.
Well, I mean, but because first of all, I mean, we know art when we see it and we don't regulate content anyway. But I'm just saying that,
Appreciate that reference.
yeah, I think that in my view, this is a great location for public art. I think we're not choosing the art. It's not our purview. And so I would say, whenever it's ready, put it there. If you decide that you want to have competitions every couple of years and you want to change the content, that works for me.
I just don't know that this is meets the hardship of a variance.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to figure out, what
I
the
don't know,
hardship
We've been
is.
talking a lot about, variance authority of this board, and we hold every applicant to, to that authority. And I guess the hardship that I'm seeing here is that we can't put an art sculpture where an art sculpture is not allowed, right? That's the hardship.
Staff, did you have a argument for what the hardship was?
That there is no other existing location on the property where this could occur because the building was constructed in 1948. It was originally used as a Pepsi bottle manufacturing plant. It encroaches into the street setbacks on all three sides. The only other remaining area that an art sculpture located on the exterior of the lot could be located is within the existing driving aisle or parking area that serves the main purpose of the use.
None of those are
So it says every homeowner ever, right?
Yeah.
Now, that being said, I love dogs and I love the sculpture.
And it fits perfectly into that neighborhood,
Right.
truly. I'm inclined to vote no and then just put it there anyway. I mean, they're the county.
Right, but that
Who's gonna police this?
But that was kind of my point at the beginning.
In the
It's like,
beginning was, why are we here?
why are we here?
But the-
Right? No, like
but-
that's my, like, why doesn't the county board
It's
do something? Right?
government for the sake of government. It's just this
And
process.
the county board here is I am not an expert in, county board use permits versus our use permits, but it seems to me that could be done by the county board.
Yeah, and my feeling is
I mean,
it's probably allowed under that section about S3A.
so let's get an appeal to us.
It's,
Can I
it's-
read?
It's a super cool idea that fits the neighborhood and we're kind of wasting the artist and the
Everyone's
government's
contribution,
time
right?
by doing this. In ours too, in mine, I'm rambling about this. I don't know why. I can't stop.
I'd rather this come
talking
to us as an appeal.
It's a little early for this kind of wackiness. I understand that that's a little bit unusual for variance, but if the board in its infinite wisdom decided that we had to do it instead of them, let's do it. I'll make a motion if somebody will put it up.
Akashri, did you want to say
Oh,
something?
I was going to go ahead and you make the motion. Go ahead. They put it up. I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving variance V1210226VA1.
Second.
A motion by Ms. McCoskey for approval, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
No.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes no. Motion for the dog art passes 3-2.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to see it.
It's not a dog.
We'll invite
park.
all of you.
It's not a dog park.
I said dog art.
Oh.
We did not approve a dog park, just to be clear. Can you call the next case, please? No, Ms. McCoskey has to make a statement.
Item 1210326 UP1 applies solely to a property located at 6026 20th Street North, which I own, and I am disqualified by the Virginia Conflicts of Interest Act from participating in this matter. I further would state that I have not discussed this matter with any governmental officers or employees. But I will hand in some documents that I thought I had uploaded that apparently never got there.
Thank you. Yep. Any questions for staff on this? Any questions for staff on this application?
Is this
We did not call. Can you please call the application?
multiple?
Thank you. Case number V-12103-26-UP-1, a use permit request by Scott Sturl on behalf of Carol McCoskry, the owner, to permit a right side setback of 14 feet to the porch, 13.3 feet to the porch eve, instead of 10 feet to the porch, 6 feet to the porch eve as required, and to permit an aggregate side yard width of 8.4 feet instead of 18 feet as required regarding a side porch replacement expansion and renovation to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 6026 20th Street North in Highland Park, Overly Knolls. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. I assume no speakers. Was there supplemental for this one? You just said there was or wasn't, and I was not.
The only supplement material
Just what we got.
information in front of
Yeah,
you.
thank you.
So the applicant's not with us.
The applicant has a representative, though.
Okay.
Before we call the representative of the applicant up, do we have questions for staff? Nope. Is the applicant's representative with us? Mr. Sturl? Is the microphone on? I don't. Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry. And she has a small, side covered porch right now. It's about 7 by 8. She'd like to expand it to a screened porch so she can sit out there and, enjoy the weather and not get bitten by bugs. We're a little bit limited by 2 windows that are already there. So it can't be much larger than it is. So it's about 2.5 feet larger, and we're not extending any toward the side yard. We're going to keep the existing shed roof, not keep it, but keep the form of it, so it looks fairly the same as it does now. That's about it.
Thank you, sir. Do my colleagues have questions for this applicant? Discussion or motion?
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Malice.
I'll make a motion. I think this is a reasonable request in it, that it's basically in an existing location on an undersized lot. So I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-12010-26-UP-1, subject to the conditions listed.
Second.
Thank you. A motion for approval as advertised made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? I'll just add that I feel this applicant's pain because I had a very similar project where my porch was in disrepair and needed to come before this board to get my porch done. This board routinely approves these types of requests that are in mostly the existing footprint. In this case, we're expanding another 2.5 feet, but not increasing the encroachment. And even that increase of the 2.5 feet is pretty reasonable in this circumstance. It's not going the full length of the house. It's just aiding in the symmetrical nature of that porch. So I will, of course, support this. Hearing no other discussion, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 4-0 with 1 recusal. Abstention? Recusal? Is there a legal difference? I don't know. I think she recused, so. Thank you. We still have 3 at the bench. Can you call the next case?
Sure. Case number V-12104-26-VA-3, a variance request by Kelly Vogan, the applicant on behalf of Charles Gilbert, the owner, to permit a main building footprint of 30.24% and lot coverage of 54.24% instead of a main building footprint of 30% and lot coverage of 40% as required, and to permit an addition to a non-conforming building without being made to conform to the regulations of the district in which it is located regarding the replacement and reconfiguration of an existing elevated exterior staircase on an existing single-family dwelling in the RA6-15 zoning district on the premises known as 1621 North Colonial Terrace, North Roslyn. And staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the variance request, and note there is a supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed, and that includes 1 signature of support for a project from the neighbor.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff on this item? Hearing none, is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application? Very briefly. I'm sorry, can you identify yourself? Thank you. Thank you. Questions for the applicant?
So this is a lot coverage issue.
Can I just note quickly that apparently your mic is not on, so if you could just tap it, thank you.
Okay. Is there anywhere else on the site that you could reduce coverage?
Kelly Logan, I'm the applicant, on behalf of Mr. Gilbert. You're asking, if I heard you right, is there another place a stair could be located?
No.
No, I'm sorry.
Right now, does the main building already take you over lot coverage?
Yes, the building is slightly over the lot.
So there's no other place that you could reduce
Right.
coverage
No.
without taking something off the building? There's no driveways, there's nothing that's causing you cover, I mean, and that's for staff, it's maybe.
There is a driveway associated with the property. I could run the numbers, but it's my understanding that they also likely have parking requirements, off-street parking requirements, but I would need to look into that to see whether there's any opportunities for them to reduce. So give me a
Okay.
moment there.
Sure.
Right, this was because of a reduction in the zoning ordinance. Right, so the
Right.
original stairs were built.
Right. I
Right.
understand that, but just, I was looking to see if there was a way to bring this into conformance.
Right.
I will also just note that the main building footprint calculation is also over. They're asking for, and that
Okay.
is not part of the lot coverage calculation.
Okay. I was pretty sure that was the case, but.
So I might be confused on this point, but does it make a difference if it's a spiral staircase versus the one that is to be put in? It's because of the landings, right? So I'm just wondering, why not just replace the spiral one? Wouldn't that be the same?
Well, Dan said.
So the spiral, when you're going up it, feels unsafe. If you carry anything up it, it's narrow, you're walking
Right.
around, it's just challenging.
Okay, so, but I was thinking that it's not that a new spiral staircase would help the problem. The problem is it being spiral, not it being an old falling apart spiral.
Correct. I mean, I think it's both of those issues, but both the spiral just makes it a
Gotcha.
much
Okay.
more challenging walk up. And
As a-
everybody comments it's scary.
As a point of clarification, because the property is currently already over on main building footprint and lot coverage, it is a unique situation in which it is a one-family dwelling in a multifamily district. And while Article 16 does have provisions for nonconformity, such as this one for in-kind replacement of a spiral staircase, there is no exception for this kind of nonconformity. So even the removal and replacement of a spiral staircase with a spiral staircase would not be allowed without a variance.
Is the width of the actual stairs, is that the minimum by code, or is that a choice?
I have not dimensioned them, and I am not familiar with the requirements of minimum building code stair width, but I can look into that for you.
Right, because I mean, that might be of interest of, what is it that we're approving versus what's the minimum we could possibly approve, right? And I don't know that.
How wide are the stairs?
I don't know that matters.
How wide are the stairs
Current
now?
ones are about 2 feet wide.
The spiral.
The proposed.
Spiral.
And the
No,
proposed?
And the proposed are about 3 feet.
3 foot.
3 foot.
3 foot wide.
And so the spirals are appreciably narrow.
Yeah, 2 foot spiral is dizzying.
Yeah, no, I get it, right. I mean, this seems to be like exactly the
It's
Valerie
not
case,
that wide.
right? The Arlington County version of Valerie.
Mr. Chairman, I'm inclined to support this application.
I just want to get my answer and then,
From a quick Google search, it appears that in Virginia, the minimum residential exterior stairway width must have a minimum clear width of 36 inches or
Perfect.
3 feet.
Just the
that
minimum.
helps me at least. Ms. Malice?
So anyway, I was saying I'm inclined to support this. I think it's a unique situation, given that when this property was built, what the zoning ordinance was at the time, and given what the zoning district is. And I don't think it would be reasonable to deny the applicant to have access to his rooftop for, even if it wasn't for amenity purposes, for repairs or
There are
cleaning.
HVAC systems up on the rooftop, and even the HVAC people have commented that it's not what they really love to walk up with all their equipment.
Yeah, and I was saying that this seems to be like exactly the Valerie variance Virginia case, right? Preventing
Right,
access
what's
to part of a property,
reasonable,
right?
right.
So, Ms. Malice, would you like to?
I wouldn't, I'm
make-
just looking for the.
It's on the screen.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the variance V-12104-26-VA-3.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Malice for approval as advertised, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion?
Just want to make, I guess there's no conditions. It's usually with conditions. I'm looking at so it should be, I'll amend that with conditions as noted in the staff report.
Hearing no more comments, I will call the roll on the as advertised with the conditions as advertised.
Who was the second?
Ms. Freshman was second. Ms. Malice?
Aye.
Ms. Freshman?
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey?
Aye.
Mr. Kumana?
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you very much.
Ms. Klein?
Case number V-12105-26-UP-2, a use permit request by Mark and Kimberly Basadi, the owners to permit a street setback of 20.1 feet to the porch and 18.9 feet to the building eave, 18.2 feet to the porch eave instead of 21 feet to the porch and building eave, and 19.5 feet to the porch eave as required, and to permit a left side setback of 7.3 feet to the building wall, 3.7 feet to the building eave instead of 8 feet to the building wall, 5 feet to the building eave as required, regarding a new front porch, second-story addition, roof, two-story rear addition with basement, one-story right side addition over a basement, and AC units to an existing one-family detached dwelling in the R5 zoning district on the premises known as 205 North Barton Street, Lyon Park. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution approving the use permit request with conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Do my colleagues have questions for staff? Is the applicant with us? Would you like to speak to your application? Ms. Klein, can you go back to that screen that you showed with the previous 24 BZA? Yep, that. Thank you. You went too quick. Would you like to speak to your application?
Yes, please. Hello, thank you for your time. We had a previous use permit approved back in November 2024, but it expired before we were able to apply for a building permit. So this application is simply us reapplying to giving us another year to start to apply for a building permit. Thank you very much.
Do we have questions for the applicant?
Is it identical?
The differences are on the screen.
Yeah, we got a new architect, and I think that it's nearly, to me, it's identical, but I think, what's that?
You're asking for less.
Yeah, I think we're asking for less this time. I think the new architect found a way to move some of the HVAC equipment and stuff like that that made it, that we needed less relief.
Maybe I misunderstood, but your neighborhood outreach, Did you, so you had not, there's nobody living next door to you, is that right?
Yeah, at the current time, the two properties on the bottom of your chart, closer to Washington Boulevard, 201 North Barton Street has been abandoned for years now. And then 2417 Washington Boulevard also has been abandoned for a while. I was so close. They had an open house this past weekend. It looks like that property is for sale now. I talked to the realtor. Okay, because previously we've mailed them letters and we've never gotten anything back from them about our previous application or this one. So I found the realtor and I really thought she was gonna talk to the homeowner and we're gonna have something and I was gonna have this big win for you guys, but we did not get a response in time.
Motion.
Ms. Freshman?
I'm prepared to make a motion.
Yeah,
Oh, yay. Okay.
that's why I was calling on you unless.
I move the Board of Zoning Appeals approve the attached proposed resolution approving use permit V-12105-26-UP2, subject to the conditions listed.
Thank you, Ms. Freshman.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman for approval as advertised, seconded by Ms. McCoskey. Is there any further discussion? We will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Will we see you back in a year for another one?
I really hope not, but thank you for your time again.
Thanks.
A
Good
lot
luck.
of trouble, isn't it?
Right? Ms. Klein, we're right on schedule here.
Good job. Okay. Case number V-12106-25-VA-2, a variance request by Baron Cisneros and Maria Bermudez Cisneros, the owners, to permit a total main building footprint of 2,820.2 square feet or 41.2% instead of 2,520 square feet or 30% as required, and to permit a total lot coverage of 45.53% instead of 40% as required regarding an existing deck on a one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3226 5th Street North, Ashton Heights. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the variance. An alternative resolution has been provided should the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised, subject to conditions. Note there is supplemental material for this case that came in after the application packet was assembled and printed, including a petition of support with 10 additional signatures, 5 comment letters in support, and a medical summary of the applicant's relative.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Ms. Freshman has something.
As this is an existing deck, apparently there for a long time, can you say why we're here?
This is, oh, Megan, you-
Oh, I can, last year, there was a zoning enforcement case for it, so the neighbor reported it, and so it's an active zoning enforcement case.
Even though it had been there a long time?
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Any further questions for staff? Is the applicant with us?
Can you hear us?
Would you like to speak to your application?
Thank you. So my name is Maria Bermudez. This is Byron Cisneros. And thank you so much, Chair Kaplan and the rest of the board members for seeing us. Would like to address some of the concerns raised by the staff on the staff report and explain to you like who we are and what was our rationale so that you understand why this exists, which was your question, Ms. Freshman. First off, I'd love to let you know that when we bought our home, we bought it on purpose because it had an in-law suite. We are both the youngest children of elderly parents, and we had foreseen that taking care of them would be important. And so we do have that structure, and that's already approved. In addition, I'd also like to talk about, this multi-generational living has asked us to adapt and improve our conditions and make sure that the family can coexist and be safe. An important thing that is part of our application that I think we didn't explain properly is that a small deck existed, and as the needs of our family change, we expanded that. We're both first time immigrants to the country, so to be honest, like the permits have only come to our lens more recently with these situations. And we want to make right and make this work well. So if we go to the next page, I think I covered most of this, but we're gonna talk about my mother-in-law. Her name is Alma Cisneros, and we're gonna talk about why we think this deck has been the evolution of that. So if we could go to the next page, please. So my mother-in-law is turning 90 this year. She's thankfully well cognitively, but has a couple of perfect storm conditions that we want to take care of. Number one, she's suffered with glaucoma for over 14 years. And in the last 2 to 3 years, this degenerated, and she ended up having retinal detachment. So she's lost essentially vision in one of her eyes. The other eye is under deep care by the doctors. And then if we go to the next page, the other thing which is to be expected is, given her age, is that she's very close to the osteoporosis kind of mark. And so the type of condition she has that doesn't allow for a lot of like depth and space management. And for us, the deck has a really flat outing from the main building. It's the place where there is actual direct sunlight exposure in the house because of the position of the house, no matter when in the year the front of the house doesn't get it. And it's something that has the rails and everything that we feel good for her. With that, I'd love to then, if we can go to the next page, talk about kind of like what our neighbors have said. We did a very active campaign with adjacent neighbors and the broader community. I think we got close to 35 neighbors that said, yes, please, it's fine. We attest that this has been there a long time. And for those who are directly impacted, they see no problem on continuing to have this deck. And so that for us was very important. Our neighborhood has taken us through many things. So it's also about that. If we can go to the next page, I'd like to start addressing a couple of, one by one, a couple of the specific topics that we had in hand and hung on because I lost my page. Number one, on the use permit, I think that ties well. From what we understood from the staff report, the main issue was neighborhood compatibility, but our neighbors say that that's okay. I will recognize that the setback is very tight, but would also like to for you to kindly consider too that it's an open area and it's actually less visibly invading to those who look at it than what an enclosed area like a garage would be. It's just more light and plants and people. And you've seen some of the comments in the application, and they're also noted in the staff report. And then if we go to the next page on the variance, the question that comes is whether there is a self-created hardship. And I want to address that. The housing itself, and I don't know if this is the right term, but I think it's lawfully non-compliant or lawfully non-conforming. It was built in 1920, and even in 1982, when there is a last permit requested, it had different asks for coverage and limits, so that the housing itself was already non-conforming. It had a deck, and again, we absolutely recognize that we should have thought through how to expand or how this works. We just didn't know. But most importantly, we want to share with you the the situation of our family and like how we're caring for my mother-in-law. I skipped through this, but his dad died also 5.5 years ago. He also had vision, he had macular degeneration, and he was also struggling with the same thing. So we that's sort of like what we were working backwards from, and that's taking a few years to do that. Given that disability, would like to maybe reframe the argument and explain that this deck is the accommodation to give us security and the ability to function well as a family and like feel safe, that everyone is safe at home. And that we hope that the Virginian provisions give us space for that. And last but not least, I think we have a couple more pages. There is alternative approval resolutions. We really want to make right by this. We don't want to end in limbo. Like, I don't know what happens if we don't do this, then what else do we do? Because we have to make it livable. And last page, I think is just the recap, the no position, the deck existing in place for over 10 years, and the medical need for us to make this work. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Do my colleagues have questions for the applicant?
I have a question for staff.
Ms. Malice?
So these, the main building footprint number and the total lot coverage, those figures include the illegally built deck?
Correct.
Did you discuss your application with staff? I mean,
Yes, we did.
your
We work with them.
staff is not supporting your application.
Yeah.
And did you discuss possible accommodations with them?
We didn't discuss possible, after we saw the not supporting, we haven't discussed, we didn't have any conversations with them after that. I know that they did provide an alternate for you guys to consider. And we felt that that was the reason I didn't reach out was because I felt that that was a reasonable alternate solution, which was to get a building permit, ensure that it is safe and can last for another 20 years. So that's why I didn't reach out to them.
So let me understand, would you be willing to discuss this further with staff to come up with a proposal that they could support?
Yeah.
When I will note that I visited the applicant on the property on last Friday, and we did discuss at that time that regardless of whether, let's say, the entire deck was removed, they're still over on I believe they're still over on lot coverage and maiden building footprint.
Yeah.
A little bit of room.
And I do have it pulled up on the screen, so I have it with the current deck for the existing site conditions and then without the deck. So if they remove the deck completely, they would be okay on the square footage for main building footprint, but they would be over for the coverage because they would exceed 30%, and they'd also be over the lot coverage limit. Or no, they would be compliant if they completely took away. So it would just be the main building footprint percentage that they'd be over if they kept the deck, or if they remove the deck completely.
So how did they get in trouble here?
The zoning ordinance changed in 2005, limiting.
Change the code.
Exactly.
But
Go ahead.
so the house without the deck is legally non-conforming as to coverage. Okay. And I think you said that.
I was trying to say that.
No,
I don't
you
know how to
did.
say it.
Actually, you used exactly the right word. So that's fine. I just wanted to verify that staff agreed with that point. Okay.
The in-law suite was built prior to 2005?
I don't know what we're defining as an in-law suite, but there is the house in what appears to be its current configuration minus the large deck on the rear appears to match what was approved in Meg. What's
The 1982 variance, what they asked for.
So
And when they approved that variance in 1982, they had requests to be closer to the rear property line, but the BZA told them to build it further. So it's a slightly different configuration because they didn't specify exactly how large it needed to be. It just needed to be a certain distance from the rear property line.
And we don't know what the square footage of the original porch is.
on the rear.
Yeah.
do not have any building permit records that indicate that something was approved there. So anything that was added onto the rear there after whatever 1982 approval happened we don't have records of that.
And there was, when I looked at the plat from the 1982 variance, the measurements were slightly different, even though it's the same shape that it is now for the house itself.
Right.
The measurements were less than in dimensions, even though it doesn't look like it's changed. So it seems more accurate and maybe some of the measurements
But
for the
the
overall.
that original plot didn't have a deck, I'm assuming?
That's correct.
But we do know that's a significant increase in size from what it was previously.
We had a model deck, but it was big enough because you have two exits on the back because you have one for the addition and one for the main house. And it was big enough to have like a dining room and something, but I don't know, we thought it was like it's there. There's nothing for many feet behind. The house that's behind ours is a long house with a very long backyard. Like I don't know, like
So
it makes sense, but we just didn't know.
So, Mr. Chairman, the concern is, obviously they're already over, so any deck is already over. And the question is, if we were to make an accommodation based on disability, what would be the appropriate accommodation? Is what was proposed or built here the appropriate accommodation, or would there be a more appropriate accommodation that
A reduction
that
of
staff
the
could
size.
support and we might be able to support as well?
Or even a sunset.
And so I think, to me, there needs to be an additional conversation before we make a decision on this based on disability. Because staff's argument right now is that the disability could be accommodated with something less than what is what is here now.
And if I may, I think one thing is we didn't,
No, you.
well, no, and we
It's
did an
not-
understanding of the
No,
process.
we're not having a debate here. I'm just telling my colleagues how
Right, I
I
apologize.
feel. And so that I would, instead of a denial, I would entertain a deferral.
Right,
for the-
I think something has to be approved. I don't know that, I don't know that a denial is appropriate, but I also don't know that, I mean, this is a big deck,
Right.
right? I don't know that I would be in support of the current size. And I get that the applicant's point is that, they got 35 neighbors, but we're here
Right.
because someone doesn't like it.
So the standard is not compatibility. This is a variance. The standard is hardship and disability. So the fact that your neighbors, feel that it's compatible is not one of the standards we use for a variance. We use that for a use permit. So anyway, I don't know how my colleagues feel, but I would entertain a deferral.
But, and we'll talk to the use permit shortly, but staff is also recommending a denial for the use permit. So they're also finding that the size of, or the setback relief requested is not compatible as well. Right.
Oh,
So-
I see. Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's a double here.
Yes.
Yeah.
And,
Yes.
but staff can, to your point, staff can have that conversation with this applicant.
Right. Because I don't want to dismiss it offhand.
Right. I know, I
without-
think that's right. Because like I said, I would be uncomfortable denying a deck period because there was a deck that has been established with this house probably predating the ordinance change. Although we have no record of it, so. But then, we're looking at again, another June deferral. But seeing as how the applicant has a deck they're using, I'm sure that they would not object to that.
Mr. Chairman,
Ms. Freshman.
I think I agree with the deferral because I think we're not ready to make a decision. And I think there's a compelling argument, not necessarily for leaving everything in place and saying, oops, it's okay. But also if you're using disability as a justification for wherever we end up, does it have a time limit or sunset?
Right.
Depending on the occupancy of the person requiring the disability
So one of the
exception.
one of the things that this board has done, and I had mentioned the word sunset, is that, we have the ability to approve a use permit up until the time that disability is no longer needed. Right. And then
That wouldn't be like feasible if you modify the deck one way too.
well,
Let's say we make it,
that's a problem for the future.
right,
Right.
yeah.
So that's an option that this board has done before. The other thing that I think is probably worth exploring is, I saw in the supplemental that you have provided a lot of medical documentation, but there was nothing that links the need to the ask, right? So there's nothing in the documentation that I read that supports the need for a deck of this size and scope.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna.
And I think that's what we're struggling with.
Yeah, that I think we failed at making that case.
Sorry.
So I mean, if I make a motion, I'll make a motion to defer the variance. We'll start with that.
Yeah, and I just wanted to, that's a point that the applicant can submit documentation to.
Can I ask a question about your motion of deferral? Just related to the intention of it, it sounds like from the intention of the BZA, it's that the understanding of the deferral would be for the redesign of the project. Is that correct? May I just note that the deadline for the final application submittals for the June meeting, because it is early, it's June 10th, whereas usually it's a little later. The deadline was today for final applications. So
Talking September.
July is also available.
Oh, July.
Yeah, I mean, I'm also of the opinion, this applicant has a deck that I'm sure this applicant is not in a hurry to get this resolved. And if we're not in a hurry, then.
Yeah, but there is an enforcement case. Is that?
The enforcement case, as long as the applicant is continuing to make reasonable progress.
All right.
But we do want to resolve.
We would because to be honest, like we're very anxious with this. Like we feel like we're in trouble and it's not helpful. Like that's not what we like to be. And again, I acknowledge what you said. Like we failed to make the clear case of what is the actual problem and why we evolved into that decision. But what we would want to say is like, what is good enough of a deck that can live, that meets other comparable setbacks, and
Staff can help with that discussion. Right.
But I think it's important for you all to understand that there are several different issues here, because you have a non-conforming house and a non-conforming deck, apart from the medical issue that needs to be addressed. And then you have a disability issue that can be addressed, but that isn't necessarily going to cure the problem of your house itself and deck itself. So that's how that's addressed. And if there's, for example, if we ultimately approve it with a sunset, does that mean that forever and a day, the deck and the house are fine? Or are there any kinds of exceptions? I just think that there are a number of issues that have to be worked out, and it'll take a little bit of time to do that. And there are requirements for advertising and submitting documents that is the issue here too. So if there are any changes, if you end up just saying, we don't want to change what we have, let's try to get that approved, that's a different situation from if you try to make some changes in an effort to accommodate or settle or compromise.
Absolutely.
And that just takes time to put all of that on paper and get it through the formal process.
It doesn't sound like what is in the plans now would be approved by this board, is just kind of my sense. And so you should take that back when you work with staff with that understanding.
Can I ask just one clarifying question? The house being non-conforming is how we bought it. Like, do we have to do something to remediate it? That from what the statement you have?
The house, no.
Most of Arlington is non-conforming.
Oh,
We're just concerned with the size and scale of the actual deck.
The fact that it was built without a permit.
I know. I'm sorry.
And that, and the size of it, just adds to it.
I mean, it's like, it's just that's, we're working on, something will likely get approved. It's just a matter of working out what with staff and trying to get everyone to the same place.
And I know that's not our purview, but just so they understand, and frankly, I understand, is there any delaying this till July or September? is there any issues with code enforcement then that they need to be aware of?
No.
No, because as Ms. Klein stated, that as long as they're actively pursuing a resolution with us or the BZA or elsewhere, the code enforcement will be held in abeyance or stayed.
And I don't mean to be, I'm just asking generally, like, Spanish is my first language too. So like, do you guys understand what's going on and like what you need to do next?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we understand.
And like, there's no, yeah.
And basically you're saying, sit down with staff, come up with something that
Yep.
staff will recommend and go through the motions to get that approved.
And enjoy your summer on the deck until that day comes.
Staff
There's nothing
doesn't-
that's gonna happen.
And staff doesn't necessarily have to recommend, they might have a denial, but it might be the only thing available, right? So staff may always recommend denial, but it's really our decision.
Right.
But, we often look favorably upon what staff can recommend. Sometimes staff just can't recommend an approval.
Right.
And so it is what it is. And we have gone against staff before, right? But we'd like to all get to some, a happy medium.
Appreciate it. Thank you so much for.
So
Okay.
So
I'm hearing from staff that we should do June?
July,
July.
June, they can't make if they have any changes.
It's too much.
Right.
Is July okay?
So we'll see you back in July.
so we have to make a motion.
Yep.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer V-12106-25-VA-2 to the BZA's July hearing.
Second.
A motion for a deferral made by Ms. Malice, seconded by Ms. McCoskey to the July hearing. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0. Can you please call the use permit? We should probably call these together. We should talk about this at some point.
A use permit request by Bayron Cisneros and Maria Bermuda Cisneros. The owners to permit a rear setback of 0.8 feet to the deck instead of 21 feet as required regarding an existing deck on a one-family detached dwelling in the R6 zoning district on the premises known as 3226 Fifth Street North, Ashton Heights. Staff recommends that the board adopt the attached proposed resolution denying the use permit request. An alternative resolution has been provided to the BZA see fit to approve the application as advertised, subject to conditions.
Thank you, Ms. Klein. Would you like to speak to the use permit?
No, they already did. They've
I
got
just
their.
wanna
10
offer.
minutes.
I just want to,
Yeah.
I feel like I
10
have to
minutes.
offer.
They got 10
They
minutes.
yeah, but they did, but it wasn't really, yeah.
Thank you.
Ms. Malice, would you like to make a motion?
Um,
We're working on it. We're working on our process.
In V-12106-25-UP-1, I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals defer this matter to our July hearing.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Malice to defer to July, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I call the roll. Ms. Malice,
Aye.
Ms. Freshman,
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey,
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for a deferral till July passes 5-0.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ms. Klein, can you call our unpaid application?
Application number ZAPP 25-00012, 5113 33rd Street North, an unpaid application for 5113 33rd Street North in Rock Spring.
Thank you. Are the applicant or the owners of this property with us tonight? And do we have any questions for staff while they may or may not be appearing? Ms. McCoskey?
Have you had any contact with them recently?
We have notified them of the application and the hearing date. They have been notified of the steps necessary to proceed with the application. We have not heard from them since we have attempted contact multiple times, but have not heard from them since December.
December.
Can you describe what that attempted contact was?
It involved multiple emails to the applicant or appellant in this case, indicating that what the next step was, and then an email indicating that the item was scheduled for this hearing.
And would they have gotten their mail about this as well?
Yes.
And all of that went on?
Oh, well, this mailed notices did not go out for this because they
Okay.
did not pay for that. But we provided them with a courtesy notice via email.
Okay. Anything
Well,
further?
it's a little tricky when the applicant's not here, but, or the appellant. But
If,
as this is, as this hearing is for the dismissal of the appeal, which is lingering because it's not paid, I don't think it's in our interest to let it linger any longer.
can I follow up one question with staff? If we dismiss this tonight, will they get a notification sent to their property?
Disposition letter will be provided to them.
And then that'll have the normal like appellate language? Or how does that work? Like if they want to
yes.
appeal this dismissal, will they be notified that they have appeal rights?
Yes.
Appeal the dismissal.
They can appeal the dismissal. That, I mean, if they want to say they didn't know about the, they didn't know that it was being dismissed or they didn't get proper notice, that's an argument they can make to someone, right? So I'm satisfied with that procedure that they will maintain their rights if they were not fairly notified.
I move that the Board of Zoning Appeals dismiss the appeal number ZAPP 25-00012.
Second.
A motion to dismiss the unpaid application made by Ms. McCoskey, seconded by Ms. Freshman. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman.
Aye.
Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Motion for dismissal passes 5-0.
I move approval of the March 18, 2026 minutes.
Second.
A motion by Ms. Freshman for approval of minutes from March 18th, seconded by Ms. Malice. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, I will call the roll. Ms. Malice.
Aye.
Ms. Freshman. Ms. McCoskey.
Aye.
Mr. Kumana. Chair votes aye. Motion passes 5-0.